Hello there, Internet, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ryan MC, and I know it has been a little while since I last uploaded my previous video, but you guys are a little bit used to me just going on hiatuses for like 6 to 8 months, so you guys probably weren't wondering where I was at. But today I'm going to be coming back to you with a special kind of video, not having to do anything with gaming. Instead, I'm going to be talking about books. For those of you who don't know, reading has always been a really huge part of my life. It has definitely been one of my main sources of entertainment and just gaining knowledge and things throughout my entire life, and I've had a lot of fun doing it, especially now during like quarantine and this whole pandemic and everything going on. I have been tearing through books at a rate that's just like a new record for me, I guess you could say. So yeah, today I'm going to be showing off a couple of the coolest books that I own. I don't really know why I decided to make this video in particular, but I don't know, I just thought it would be cool to show off some of these cool books. So yeah, basically these books aren't necessarily the best books that I've ever read. They don't even necessarily have to be some of my favorites, but some of them are. But basically they just have to be like a cool addition. Maybe they're a little bit rarer, maybe I just think the cover art's really cool. And yeah, so let's just jump into this. Alright, so first off, I have The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and I know that I said that the books don't necessarily have to be my favorites to be included on this list, or this video, but Brandon Sanderson, Way of Kings, definitely my favorite book that I've ever read. Personally, I recommend it to anybody who is into fantasy or anything like that. It's quite a honkin' big book. I believe it's well over 1,000 pages, over 1,200 actually, so it's quite large, but I do recommend it. It's the best book that I've ever read personally. I know that may be controversial to say, but I know it's a very popular book, but maybe some people will think, oh, you've read this and that's definitely better than that, but yeah. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to this, and the cover art is very beautiful. So yeah, Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson, #1. Alright, the next book I am going to be showing off is The War of the Wizards by Stefan, Wylie, and illustrated by Julek Heller. So this is a kid's book, obviously. It's very thin, hardback cover, and this book I just wanted to give a little special recognition to because I think that this was probably the book that got me into fantasy as a genre, which is definitely by far my favorite genre of reading, fantasy, and it just got me into like wizards and magic, and it's very cool. It's obviously a kid's book, there's nothing too deep about it, but yeah, the illustrations in this are very cool, so I'll show you a couple of the pictures. I don't know if you can tell, but it's got this cool little hologram thing in there that like changes depending on which angle that you're looking at it from, and yeah, and it also goes to like the other pages. So yeah, I'll just show off a couple more pictures and we'll be on to the next one. I think this is the bad guy of the story, and yeah, it's a very cool book. Recommend it. Alright, so next off we are going to be showing off My Friend Dahmer by Derf Back Derf. Now this book personally is not one of my favorites in terms of the content that's actually inside the book, but the illustrations are very nice, but I'm not a huge fan of graphic novels as a whole. I do enjoy them, and I definitely enjoy looking at the artwork, but in terms of like an actual story, I don't think it's the greatest way to tell the story. But basically why this book in particular is special to me is because a couple of years ago, whenever the movie version of My Friend Dahmer came out, the author, Derf Back Derf, actually came to my local library and gave like kind of a speech and kind of like stories of what it was like being friends in high school with Jeffrey Dahmer, which was very cool, and it is the first book that I ever got signed from an author. So here you can see his signature right there, and he actually drew a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer, like a little caricature, so I think it's very cool. Again, not one of my favorite books, but I just think it's special because it is the first time I ever had an author sign a book. So yeah. Alright, so next off we have A Hero Born by Yong. Now, this book, I believe it was quite popular over in Asia and other areas of the world before it came to America a few years ago. So basically, what I like this book. You know, it's not again, not one of my favorites, but the cover art is very cool, and what I think is particularly special about this book is that it is an advanced reader's edition. So essentially, you can see it down there at the bottom. Doesn't really focus, but whatever. So basically, if you don't know what that means, this was the book that came out before the actual story came to like shelves and to bookstores and things like that. So basically, it's uncorrected, like it's before it got through like the whole entire editing process. So I just think it's kind of cool. My aunt actually works at a library, so they get sent a lot of these uncorrected advanced readers editions, which I believe would be like given out to like critics and stuff like that who would review the book. So I think that's very cool to have, especially with a popular book like A Hero Born. So it's also very cool to have. I have a couple other advanced readers editions. Yeah, so here's one that I have for The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. I have never read this book before, but it's cool to have the uncorrected edition, and it was also published by Tor, which I know, if you guys know, is one of the more popular fantasy publishing companies out there. And I know this book in particular is quite popular. I see it's displayed quite prominently on like bookshelves and things at my local bookstores. So it's very cool to have another advanced reading edition. It's uncorrected, so there's probably quite a few grammatic errors and like spelling errors and things like that in here. So it may be cool to go through one day. I haven't read it yet, but one day I'll get to it. Alrighty, this next book is a little tiny thing called Indians of America. It is by... Where's the author? I've actually never read this before. I've only looked at the pictures. But it's by Lillian Davis Fazzini. And this book was actually my great-grandfather's. When he passed away, he actually let us go and take some of his old books and stuff that he had. So that was very cool. And this book is actually from 1935. So it is 85 years old, and you can definitely tell it looks its age, to say the least. And it looks like on the front, like someone tried to tape parts of it down, is because it was kind of falling apart, which is kind of unfortunate because it obviously detracts from the value of the book. But nonetheless, I think it's very cool. This is definitely the oldest book that I personally own, 85 years old, and if you read through it, it's just funny to see how like things have changed over time, especially like even in the title, calling it Indians of America. Obviously that's kind of an outdated phrase, but yeah, it's very cool, and it's just kind of cool to see. And there's a lot of nice little pictures in it. I'm trying to be delicate because it is falling apart on me. But yeah, here's just a few of the pictures, and it just kind of tells, I guess, what life was like for Native Americans at the time. So next up, we have my copies of The Lord of the Rings, which, of course, Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers. This one's kind of worn a little bit. I've taken it on quite a few like camping trips and stuff whenever I was first reading. But yeah, Lord of the Rings. These books in particular, or these editions, aren't particularly special, but I just really like the cover art on them. I think it's cool. I love it when books have like cover art that's just like a scene depicted from the book. Like here you have Frodo hiding from the Ringwraith, and then here you have either Merry or Pippin writing on Treebeard. So it's very, very cool. I just love these kind of copies of the books. And then also, if you're wondering why I didn't show Lord of the Rings Return of the King, I have this edition of the book, which is also quite cool, but it definitely irks me that I don't have 3 of the same edition, or 3 of the same covers, because, I don't know, it just doesn't look as great on my bookshelf. But whenever I was initially reading these books, I couldn't find that version of Return of the King. So definitely whenever I get more money and stuff and start investing in my book collection, I'm gonna have to get like the same edition, so either buy 2 more of these or 1 more of the other. But nonetheless, this cover's pretty cool too, but I definitely prefer these covers just because how they have scenes painted on them essentially. Next up, we have the John Lennon letters by John Lennon himself, obviously, which I think is very cool. It was basically just a compilation of letters that he wrote throughout his life, and it was edited and put together by Hunter Davies. And this edition, I think, is relatively rare. Definitely not super expensive, but it's around like $50 to $60. Definitely more than I would ever pay for a book personally, unless it was something that I was collecting it for. But this is a very cool book to own. If anybody doesn't know, when I was younger, I was quite a huge Beatles fan, so my family would just always give me like different Beatles memorabilia for like my birthday and Christmas. I'm still quite a big Beatles fan, but I don't really, definitely not as big of a fan as I was when I was younger, but I still definitely love having this book. I've actually never read through it. I've read through like a couple of the different letters here and there, but yeah, I've never read through it entirely. I have the audiobook as well, and I've listened to quite a bit of it, so it's a good book, and I just think it's cool to have this edition. It's nice hardback, it's got the sleeve on it, it's very cool. Alright, and next up, we have two of my favorite books that I own personally. So here we have The Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. And if you don't know, these are both the second and third book of the Song of Ice and Fire series, aka the Game of Thrones series, by George R.R. Martin. And these versions are particularly special to me just because of the covers on them. Because, as you all know, around like 2010 or 2011, whenever the show started to get really popular, they actually changed the covers of the books, I believe, around that time. So they all fit together. Yeah, you can see them. Oh, it's kind of hard doing everything inverted, but you can see like how they look together now. So obviously it looks a lot better than their current edition, just like sitting on a bookshelf. Like the collection itself looks quite nice, but I don't know, I just, like I said with the Lord of the Rings books, I just really love how classic book covers used to just like paint out scenes on the covers. So, and then this one's just a sword, but also it's different from the mass market paperback version that is printed quite a lot now, the more popular version. So these were cool finds. I found them at a garage sale actually, and yeah, they're just cool, nice things to have on my collection. So even though I have the newer versions, I keep pointing in the wrong direction, but even though I have the newer versions, I definitely think these books are cool to have, especially The Clash of Kings, because it, again, has a scene painted on it, and I think it's really cool. And last but not least, definitely not least, I have The Hobbit by Jrr Tolkien and illustrated by Jemima Catlin. So this version of the book is very special to me. My brother got it for me for Christmas one year when I was in high school, and this isn't the book that I initially read The Hobbit in. I just initially read it in like a normal paperback version, but this version is very cool. I love the cover. I love the felt on the cover, and then of course it's got really nice illustrations on it. So I'll just try to open up to a cool illustration to show you guys. They're not every single page is illustrated, but there's quite a few nice scenes painted in somewhere in the book. So here we have Bilbo going down the barrels, and oh, here's a cool one. Here's Smaug the dragon and his horde, and you can see Bilbo running towards him. So it's very nice. I absolutely adore this book. And stupid frickin' young me, one day when I was older, I guess I was still pretty young, but like it was multiple years after I had initially read The Hobbit, I was like, I'm gonna read The Hobbit again, and I had gotten this book for Christmas, so I was like, I'm gonna read it in this version, you know, it has the illustrations, maybe it will add to the story a little bit for me. And stupid me, I was too lazy to go grab a bookmark, so there's multiple pages, I can't really find which pages specifically, but they're, I like decided instead of using a bookmark, I was just gonna fold the corner down, which really kind of irks me because I love having this book in pristine edition. But yeah, that was really stupid of me. And the pages, they're not just like your normal paper. They're kind of more stiff paper, so it definitely shows where it's been folded. And also, I don't know if you can quite tell, but on the back, Where's it at? Right there. There's also a stain on it. Again, stupid me, whenever I was reading from this book and folding the pages, I also decided to eat I think it was like a chocolate ice cream bar or something, and a piece of chocolate melted and it got on the back of the book, which really pisses me off. I was like, how stupid could I have been as a little kid when I read this? But I actually wasn't that little. I think I was like a teenager, but yeah, that was quite annoying that I still have those memories. It must have been quite traumatic for me. But yeah, that's all I have for my favorite books. If you are interested in more book content, I'm definitely down to do that. I've been interested in doing like book reviews and like just talking about different characters in books and things like that. So if you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I will check you in the next video. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it'll be about books. Maybe it will be about video games. Who knows? This channel is just full of surprises. But yeah, thanks for watching. And if you did enjoy, again, please leave a comment or a like and just say that you want more book videos. So yeah, see you in the next one.